China projected GDP growth target for year at around 5% at the National People's Congress. China's national legislature started Sunday making a modest forecast in an effort to revive an economy battered by COVID-19 and Beijing's controversial zero COVID policy. This was announced by outgoing Premier Li Keqiang as he delivered a government work report at the opening section of the 14th NPC, laying out economic priorities and a new budget, including plans for defense amid continuing tensions with the West, including in Taiwan Strait and war in Ukraine. China also unveiled its annual defense budget for 2023, which saw an increase by 7.2% to roughly 1.55 trillion yuan. According to a draft budget report released alongside the NPC opening, this is the second year in a row that the annual hike in defense budget has exceeded 7% amid rising geopolitical tensions. In 2022, China increased its defense spending by 7.1%. NPC spokesperson on Saturday signaled at increasing its defense budget, the second biggest after US citing complex security challenges. This is the first two sections since Chinese leader Xi Jinping secured a norm-breaking third term as the General Secretary of Chinese Communist Party in October 2022. China's economy is staging a steady recovery and demonstrating vast potential and momentum for further growth, Li said in his address, which emphasized China's focus on ensuring stable growth, employment, and prices amid global inflation. The economy added more than 12 million urban jobs last year, with urban unemployment rate falling to 5.5%, according to the work report. European Union has said it was setting up a humanitarian air bridge to deliver aid to Goma in the conflict-hit eastern part of Democratic Republic of Congo. Goma is the capital of North Kivu province, where fighting with the rebel group M23 has displaced more than 6 lakh people. A European Commission statement said the operation will deliver humanitarian support in the form of medical and nutritional supplies, along with a range of other emergency items. The EU said it was also releasing some 47 million euros to be channeled through humanitarian partners for immediate needs such as nutrition, healthcare, shelter, and water. The EU's Commissioner for Crisis Management said the EU stands ready to mobilize all the necessary means to support humanitarian workers, including logistics and air, to meet the needs of population in Democratic Republic of Congo. He said with the humanitarian air bridge operation organized with the support of France and the new fund mobilization, they reaffirm their support to the most vulnerable. Protests broke out in Iran's capital, Tehran, and other cities on Saturday over a wave of suspected poison attacks that have affected schoolgirls in dozens of schools. The so far unexplained illnesses have affected hundreds of schoolgirls in recent months. The country's health minister has said that the girls have suffered mild poison attacks. Iran's interior minister said on Saturday that investigators have found suspicious samples that were being studied. The sickness affected more than 30 schools in at least 10 of Iran's 31 provinces on Saturday. The United Nations Human Rights Council called on Friday for a transparent investigation into the suspected attacks. Iran, however, has rejected what it views as foreign meddling and hasty reactions and said on Friday it was investigating the causes of the incidents. Japan's government pledged financial and technological support to help ASEAN countries accelerate their efforts to decarbonize their economies and combat global climate change. Japanese industry minister said that Japan will take a lead in providing generous support in finance, technology, and personal resources to help Asia's decarbonization. According to media reports, Japan aims to turn into world's leading hydrogen economy to reduce dependence on traditional polluting fossil fuels such as coal and oil. As the chair of the group of 7 nations this year, Japan will hold a ministerial meeting on climate, energy, and environment in the city of Sapporo on the 15th and 16th of April this year. North Korea's foreign ministry called on the United Nations to demand an immediate halt to combined military drills by United States and South Korea. It said that such combined military drills are raising tensions. The Vice Foreign Ministry for International Organizations said that the drills and rhetoric from the allies are irresponsibly raising the level of confrontation. The United States and South Korea will conduct more than 10 days of large scale military exercises in this month. The US and South Korea say the exercises are in self defense and are necessary to counter the rising threats from North Korea's ballistic missile and nuclear weapon programs, which are banned by UN Security Council resolutions. The United Nations inked the first High Seas Treaty in a bid to protect the ocean bodies of the world that lie outside the national boundaries and form almost two-thirds of the world's ocean. The treaty is an outcome of a decade of talks on this environmental concern. The agreement was reached on Saturday evening after 38 hours of talks at UN headquarters in New York. The previous negotiations failed to conclude due to disagreements on funding and fishing rights. The last international agreement on ocean protection was signed 40 years ago in 1982, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. The UN High Seas Treaty now brings 30% of the world's oceans into protected domain, puts more money into marine conservation, and sets new rules for mining at sea. Previously, these water bodies were open for fishing, shipping, and to conduct research, and only about 1% of these waters, also known as high seas, were under protection, which left the marine lives in these waters at high risk of exploitation from threats including climate change, overfishing, and shipping traffic. As per the Red Data Book of the International Union for Conservation of Nature IUCN, nearly 10% of marine species were found to be at the risk of extinction. Further, the IUCN estimates that 41% of the threatened species are also affected by climate change. The High Seas Treaty now places 30% of the world's international waters into protected area by 2030. The treaty aims to protect against potential impacts like deep sea mining. This is the process of collecting minerals from ocean bed. The treaty, amongst other things, will put a restriction on how much fishing can be done on the high seas. South Korea took a step towards improving ties with rival Japan by announcing a plan to raise local civilian funds to compensate Koreans who want damages against Japanese companies that enslaved them during Tokyo's 35-year colonial rule. The plan reflects South Korean President Yoon Suk's determination to mend frayed ties with Japan and solidify security cooperation among Seoul, Tokyo, and Washington to better cope with North Korea's nuclear threats. South Korean Foreign Minister Park Jin has said the victims would be compensated through a local foundation that would be funded by civilian donations. During a televised news conference, Foreign Minister Park Jin said South Korea and Japan were at a new window of opportunity to overcome their conflicts and build future-oriented relations. Mr. Park did not elaborate on how the foundation would be financed. But in January, the chairperson of the Foundation for Victims of Forced Mobilization by Imperial Japan, which would be handling the reparations, said the funds would come from South Korean companies that benefited from a 1965 Seoul-Tokyo Treaty that normalized their relations. US President Joe Biden hailed the plan as a new chapter of cooperation and partnership between two of the United States' closest allies. In a statement, President Biden said he looked forward to enhancing trilateral ties. He said, Yoon and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida are taking a critical step to forge a future for Korean and Japanese people that is safer, more secure, and more prosperous. The White House endorsed a bipartisan bill that could give the president authority to ban or force a sale of TikTok, support that could hasten its passage and break a deadlock over how to handle privacy concerns around the popular Chinese owned app. Senator Mark Warner, a Virginia Democrat, and Senator John Tooney, a South Dakota Republican, are among co-sponsors of the legislation. The bill introduced would give the president the ability to force the sale of foreign-owned technologies, applications, software, and e-commerce platforms if they present a national security threat to US users. It doesn't mention Beijing-based ByteDance Limited's TikTok by name, but the video sharing app, which has about 100 million users in US, is the clear target. This is the first time Biden administration has weighed in on legislation to deal with the app, which the White House says poses national security risk. United Nations on Tuesday said damage from the catastrophic earthquake that struck Turkey and Syria last month has been estimated at over $100 billion for Turkey alone. The United Nations Development Programme Turkey resident representatives further explained that recovery costs are yet to be added to that. The 7.8 magnitude quake which struck Turkey and Syria in early February claimed over 50,000 lives. UN officials labeled the catastrophe as one of the worst events in 100 years in that region. Preliminary, it is clear from the calculations being done to date that damage figure presented by the government and supported by three international partners including UNDP, the World Bank, and European Union will be in excess of $100 billion. Once completed, this estimate will be basis for a recovery and reconstruction donor conference in Brussels next week. Recovery costs, including efforts to build improved and more environmentally sustainable infrastructure, will exceed the amount. United States has imposed a new round of Iran sanctions targeting the country's oil and petrochemical sales. The sanctions hit a Vietnam-based company, two firms based in China, two others in Iran, and one in United Arab Emirates, accusing them of involvement in the transport or sale of Iranian oil and petrochemicals. According to the State Department, the US is committed to significantly reducing Iran's energy exports and will sanction those facilitating its petroleum and petrochemical trade. It will not hesitate to take actions against those who try to circumvent our sanctions. Meanwhile, Iran has accused the US of showing bad faith in talks to negotiate a prisoner swap. Iran had faced an enormous amount of US sanctions since 2018. US-Iranian relations have been further complicated by a crackdown on anti-government protests in Iran and Washington's allegations that Tehran supplied Russia with the drones that Moscow used against Ukraine. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated President-elect of Bangladesh Mohammad Shahabuddin on his election as the President of Bangladesh. In Sri Lanka, the price of gold has reduced sharply to Lankan rupees 20,480 for every gram due to Sri Lankan rupees depreciation against US dollar. The central bank issued figures for the troy ounce of the precious metal, indicating a fall in the prices by over Sri Lankan rupee 20,000. The United States is hosting war planning exercises in Germany for Ukrainian military officers to help them think through upcoming battlefield decisions ahead of the next phase of the year old conflict with Russia. In the United States, companies may face steeper penalties for misconduct if they lack policies around employees' use of personal cell phones and messaging apps. A top US Justice Department official said federal prosecutors will be examining policies of off channel work communications when evaluating compliance programs.